Hello and welcome back to UI5ers Live. For today's chat, we have invited Marian Zeis again. Hi, Marian.
Hi.
Yeah, Marian will present a very nice web page she created lately for sharing and exploring UI5 related projects. And then with us are Mathias Uhlmann and Uwe Reda, both from the UI5 models team. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, they too will present some new features with the OData v4 model. Yeah, and as always, also with me are Stefan Beck.
Hi.
Peter Müsig.
Hi.
And Andreas Kunz.
Hello.
Yeah. So before we start, I think also Stefan and Andreas wanted to share some things with you, and so I think go ahead, Stefan.
Good, thanks, Margaret. So basically, we make it short as we have a quite full agenda topic, but it's important. We have some good news to be communicated with topics that we now will ship in May with the next UI5 version. And basically, one thing that you have heard already is that we come up with a new theme, SAP Horizon. You now can use it for development purposes. The consumption in the products like SuccessFactors S4 will follow in August, but if you now specify the various theme names as URL parameter, you can use it already, and there will be a blog post on Monday by Oliver Graf where you receive all the details. Also, we worked on a nice feature that we don't only have Excel export, but also now PDF export. Andreas will share also most likely in this round a bit more details the next time. And as we talk about export, we also now prepare the export into Google Sheets. You will also hear the next time more, but as said, it's now included our upcoming May release and worthwhile to be mentioned. Then we had topics that were a bit under their way, long under their way, what is kind of an improved time zone handling. You now can use UI5 and specify a dedicated time zone to be used that is different from your operating system. So currently we are, beforehand, we were only able to consider the time zone as you set it by the operating system, and now you can configure what time zone you would like to see, and also we enhance the handling for the applications with OData annotations that they can also specify and overrule this and basically say, okay, this input field or text field has always to be rendered in a very specific time zone. So to also, as we have this customer requirements, that we have this kind of fixed time zone functionality. And yes, there is much more you can see and look into the release notes. There's one more other thing to be mentioned, not directly a new feature, but also a reminder that we are about to remove code lines from the Akamai CDN network. If you do cloud consumption, there's proper kind of communication in social media or the emailing list where you can register yourself. And maybe the important news is that we now also start to delete older and outdated patch versions of long-term support releases that are, let's say, still in maintenance. So now, up to now, we have just removed code lines that were completely out of maintenance. And now we enter the field where we also have to take away old and potentially unsecure patches to motivate you basically and customers to run secure software. And with that, I hand over to Andreas for UI5con.
So you know that UI5con is just less than 2 months away. It's on the 7th and 8th of July, like last year and the year before. It's one afternoon and then the other half of the next day. We're now at the stage where we have selected the most interesting sessions that we could accept for UI5con. There were plenty of proposals from the community, and it was also a community panel, mostly external people who voted on the sessions and discussed them. And now we have accepted those that are definitely in. There's still some open points. And this year, for the first time, we will have also workshops, so hands-on workshops. Even though it's an online thing, we had this in-person UI5cons previously, but we didn't have it the last 2 years, but we'll try it this year. So there will be workshops. We'll have 4 of the long sessions and 10 short sessions. So that's more a shift to the short sessions compared to the last year. There are topics like how you can use Fiori elements also in freestyle apps, something about the OData v2 smart controls, about developer tools and support tools, some use from them, also some use from the web components. Of course, TypeScript is also covered. So lots of topics, many more than I now mentioned. You will see the agenda, I guess, soonish on the UI5con webpage. And there's also a sort of panel discussion plan from community members where we have like an open discussion during UI5con how UI5 community is evolving and working. So that's like a preview to UI5con.
Okay, then let's go to the next topic. So one of the topic is the UI5 community for sure. And here we have also started one project recently. It's called Best of UI5. And the idea started a while back. So yeah, you know, we built a lot of extensions for the UI5 tooling, this ecosystem idea, which started some years back. And for that, we made on the GitHub page is a place where you can somehow register and provide information about your individual tooling extension. And this space is a bit cumbersome to maintain, and many people also have developed own tooling extensions, published them individually. And there's not really a central place where this comes then all together. And a while back, where we also created this UI5 community GitHub organization, I created also a blog post about that with some idea which inspired me, this Best of JS page. So this is a place where you can find, let's say, a lot of open source projects, and they are somehow that you can contribute yours, you can suggest yours. And I had the idea to similarly make something for the UI5 topics, like for toolings, for custom controls, for libraries, and so on. And while we had this idea in another place where we discussed some other topics, then Marian was there and picked up this topic and continued to drive it forward. And today what we want to do is to show you the results of, let's say, our first maybe sprint, maybe a run, whatever. And you will see what the features of this Best of UI5 page are and how to contribute also your content to it. And with that, stage is yours, Marian.
Thanks. So let's pick up from Peter. Like, we would like to have a page to share all this really nice modules, custom controls, generators. And as he said, our template was Best of JS. So Best of JS is basically the same we would like to have, but it's for JavaScript and HTML and CSS packages, which are on GitHub or on NPM.
You can search for UI5, by the way.
Yeah, I think you picked up on that when you tried to get Open UI5 on that page, right?
Yeah, it was necessary because otherwise you couldn't participate in the State of JS survey. So maybe next time we also have a State of UI5 survey, something to inspire.
Yeah, so that was our template, and we try more or less try to replicate that. So we just said we have our packages on the Open UI5 community organization. So if you look in that, there are quite a few, and the most of them are in the ecosystem showcase. As Peter said, our middleware, task, and tooling, they're all in that. And it's really not visible. So that's why we tried to create something similar to Best of JS to make all those packages created by the community more visible. So if you look at Best of JS, it has the homepage with hot projects. Projects is just the overview of all projects, and tags, and there's something more like timeline, Hall of Fame, and something like that. So basically, we didn't have to come up with something like that. We just said, well, we have our template, just try to replicate that. And that's our product we have so far. also with a top-level domain. So top-level domain is here, bestofjs.org, and we just use the name bestofui5.org. So you can go on that already and have a look on that. And we have similar features like the hot packages. It's sorted by not by the stars, but by the download growth. So if some package has recently a lot of downloads, it will rise on the top here. All packages, you can simply sort and search on that. And all packages have types. So as you saw in the repo, there are middleware, task, and generators. So they're like types here, and there are also tags for the own one. So you can tag a package with X tags to have that you can search for them. And also there's a timeline on that. So if anything recent just updated, it will be on the top as well. So for example, the VDI5 service just updated yesterday. So that is on the top right now. So how you can add your package as well. On the right top is a button, is add your own package. And it will redirect you to one of our 2 repos we have with that. And in this, there's an issue. We have some sort of guideline we would like to have for the package before you can add to that. And there's like a guideline how you can create your pull request. And to show how that works, we already created a pull request for the new package UI5 CC chart. It's just a simple package where you can integrate the chart.js library from npm. So I will merge that. And then we have an action, GitHub action will crawl every day, where we can trigger that manually right now. And it will just run and get all the data we have from that package, like GitHub data, npm data, and for example, the README as well. So if you click on any of those, live reload, you get some more details, for example, the author license, the link to the GitHub page, to the npm page, and some nice historic npm downloads. And the README down here, and if you scroll a bit further, all the different versions with link to the npm package is there as well. And for example, if you go on here as well, you can see there's also this nice chart and the README. So basically, we really replicated that. So, and what we also did is you can search with the multi-input. You can combine tokens, what's called here, and search values as well. For example, if search for middleware, all those with the type middleware will be here. But you can also search, for example, web app. Only one package has the web app in the description, and that will be displayed here. And then doesn't make sense here, but you can also sort by the downloads, by the creation, or by the addition to Best of UI5. And if you look here on the top, you can also bookmark all those searches and just access them whenever you want. There's a little button which automatically copies that link to your clipboard as well. And this overview as well, you can just click on any one, and all those with the type middleware are going to be displayed as well. So if we are lucky, the crawl is already done.
It's done.
So if everything worked out,
Reload.
just reload, and hopefully we'll find it. There it is.
Cool.
No, that's the wrong one. Yeah. That's the empty one.
Maybe clear your cache. Could it be that we need to invalidate a cache, or adding a cache buster handling for this data URLs? Did you reload? Did you reload, Marian?
Yeah, I did.
I also did, and didn't show up.
Okay, that's not a natural thing. Demos always have a
Still in
small,
beta.
yeah.
So that's a feature for Sprint 2 then.
Yeah, or Run 2.
All right.
Yeah, anyways, so normally the package would show up here, and that's the way how we foresee that everyone can contribute his package then to the Best of UI5 page. It would really be the best place to become a central point where you can find middlewares, tasks, tooling extension, generators, UI5 extensions and stuff like that, apps, libraries. So that's really, oh, cool, it's there. The intention really to bring the piece together, because also this data which is used here behind the scenes, what Marian generates, we also intend to use that for other stuff. Like, for example, there is the idea right now to build a generator which can use this metadata to suggest you the middlewares, tasks, and tooling extensions for your project, and then you get some assistance while adding them. And this could be really a great place to put our ideas together and to even create more things up. So if you have also ideas doing with that, then yeah, feel free to come up with them, raise them as issues, and let's discuss them together.
Yeah, that's a good thing about it. It's all open source. So if you go into the community, UI5 community, there are 2 repos. One is for the website and one is for the back end. So in that backend with the TypeScript, we crawl the NPM and a GitHub API, and we create a JS. So that's the JS. It's a mix between GitHub and NPM data or self-generated data. For example, here's the README and the downloads data. It's all in there. And for both repos, there's really extensive README. So if you want to already look behind the scenes and how we created that website, it's a really showcase from the latest what you can do with UI5. And obviously, it's the open UI5 we created.
You can also wait a bit, and at UI5con there will be a session where we also explain more details from behind the scenes.
The question with UI5 lab is really relevant. So I think if you look at that in your mentioned blog post, I think you already mentioned that a year ago you'd like to merge that.
Yeah, so, we had already discussions with Mauricio. I talked about that, so I think there are more. There is Nitish, so with that, so we need to really see how we bring it together. Ideally, we have one spot where we have that. The downside of that, what the UI5 lab was, that there wasn't really, yeah, the properly thought at the end how to bring the pieces together. And this is different in the case of the Best of UI5. Now we have mechanisms like using NPM to include custom control projects, to include generators, to include all that. So this is I think the key piece now to have to bring the piece together. And that's why yeah, now with the Best of JS, we are pretty much good settled to bring in all these parts and have a central place to look them up.
And if you have any, like we really try to cover everything with issues. If you have any idea or too many bugs right now, you can also raise your issues or pull request. We have quite a number of contributors already. So really just share your opinion on anything, maybe a feature is missing. It's a community project.
So what's the scope of the projects you want to have listed there? Is it just tools, extensions, controls? Is it also demo applications? Is it even
demo
tutorials?
Applications? Yeah, demo application tutorials. Andreas, we did not think of yet. It was in mind for sure, but we have to see how we can present them there. So at the moment, it's good for everything which is reusable. But maybe it would be a good extension for that to also include it for demo apps and tutorials.
And we already have generators on there as well.
Yeah.
So it's not really that type of reusable, but we already use it. I think on my mind would be like something, the Visual Studio Code extensions. There are also quite a few from the community as well. So I think to make them more visible would be great to have them there on there as well.
Ideally, this becomes the central place where we can share all the things we are doing with each other. And yeah, we can also use metadata from there to build also other stuff on top of that to simplify then the consumption as well.
Really like it. Thanks a lot. I also cool that you coped a bit with the layout of our Open UI5 page. So at the header, so really cool. Yeah.
Really similar, yeah.
Why? Okay. Yeah, more to come, and also more at UI5con.
Looking forward to that one. So I don't see any further questions, but if you have something to discuss in the chat, just go ahead, or in the Q&A. I guess Marian stays with us. But as we have also quite a lot to share with OData v4, I think it's time for Mathias and Uwe to go ahead.
Yeah, then let me take over. So my network's unfortunately a bit slow. Yeah, I planned to come to the office today, but if you're corona positive, you're not allowed to go to the office, and it's also not the sensible thing to do. So if it's a bit slow, yeah, we are all victims of the virus again. Yeah. So there are two topics that we have. First one, data synchronization in OData v4. So what's data synchronization? Data synchronization means you have a property like here, the product name, and you show this in several places on your UI, and you actually want them to be in sync. Now, that may sound trivial, but on the other hand, the OData v4 model stores or keeps the data on the client with relation to the bindings. That allows you to have different views on your data, yeah, but it also means to have just one view if you're looking at different places is not always the case. And this application shows you how to do this. We also had to do some developments to actually cover all the cases that come up here. In the demo kit, we have this application. Yeah, it comes with all the code. If you want to go there, you go to the samples, search for v4, go to the OData v4 model, and then there is your the new draft handling and data synchronization application. For showing you the cases that we handle there, I will actually switch to the same application running locally. And the reason is that in the demo kit, yeah, there is already this first hash, and not everything that I will show you now will work in the demo kit, unfortunately. Okay, so first use case is you have a list report. In your list report, you see different objects. You select one of these objects, and then you want to edit this object. So here we have also a minimal draft implementation shown. Yeah, so if you want to see what the OData v4 model supports for draft, you can also have a look into this application. It's as I said, a minimal implementation of draft, and it's not, it's not complete. So when I press edit here, then actually what I'm doing is oh, it seems to be quite slow right now. Yeah, then I'm actually triggering the so-called edit action, and now I triggered it twice because it was too slow, and then I could get a separate instance of my object, the so-called draft, and I can edit this. Every change is directly saved in this draft object. And one important thing is in list report, you either see the draft if there is one, or you see the active instance. Now the interesting part is, I want to edit here something. I change the product. It also changed in the list. That's not so interesting, I think, because with draft you're directly saving this stuff, and we could cheat here, but I will not show you that we don't cheat because we don't have much time. Now what we also see here is we have here in the URL also a part showing which object page we show, which product we show in the object page. Now I can go and reload. And when I do this, then the interesting part is we want to load the product in the object page, and we don't know whether it will be in the list. So it needs to be working in parallel, and it should still be in sync. So when we look now to the network tab, and we see one batch request here, we request the data for our product 10, all the properties in the $select that we have on the object page. We request the parts for this table that you see on the object page as well. And we also request the products list. That's all in the same batch request. And then still the data is in sync. So when I change the product here, it's changed also in the list. And here I will show you now that we don't cheat. Yeah. So because the only request that went out is the patch. Yeah? So
the issue is that your screen is quite lagging. Sorry.
So I hope it's a bit better now when the video is switched off. And then the last case that's supported here is again one of these loading cases with a deep link. Is when you actually don't see the list report initially, and then you load and you just have the object page, and you start to edit on your object page, and later on you go to the list, and everything should still work properly and be in sync. So there's not so much to show here, I think. Yeah. And with draft, some of these things could be circumvented also. But it also works if you have non-draft. So what else did I want to say here? Yeah, so when I said typically, you have the possibility to have different views, but you don't want to have this. The simple solution to go would be to say, okay, I create a binding hierarchy. So my bindings on the object page are relative to the list context. And this works for the simple first case where you start from the list and then go to the object page. And we proposed this also at GitHub since years to do this. But it also has its downsides. It doesn't work in the deep link scenarios that I've shown. At least it didn't work half a year ago. And when you sort, filter, refresh your list binding, then actually your context might get lost because only context for entities that are still in the new result list would be kept. The others would be destroyed. Yeah, and I think Uwe will now show you how you actually get this going.
Okay. So basically, the basic task now is in the object page to get such a binding context, which basically is a row context of the list. And for this, we created some API which helps you with this task. And let me just show how it works. So let's first look at the lists. There we have this table that we've seen for products. And this table now gets some markup parameter, which tells this is a list which we like to share context with object pages and something like that. And then let's go to the object page. Where is it? Here with more button. Not used to such more screens anymore. And the object page now has to find some context, and for this we created an API function which simply says, okay, no, that's not it. It's on cancel. Here we have the pattern, and now we take the parameter, the key parameter from the router hash, and create some context path from it. And with this context path, we call a model at the function at the model called getKeepAliveContext, and this function guarantees us to return that context that we need. It always returns one, and it always works in all these cases. So if we are starting with the list as Mathias showed in his first example, then it's easy. It only has to find this marked list and return the context for the path that's given here. And in the case that list and object page come up in parallel, then the list doesn't have the context yet, and some context is created without any data yet, and requests those data in parallel to the list binding request. And the last one is the most complicated one. If the list report is not there at all, then the model creates some temporary binding, which just behaves like the marked list binding. So we create a context in it. This context requests the data. And now if the list comes up later because U has been selected, then the model notices that and just passes it on the context and all the cache data to this other binding, and they remain in sync, and list binding just continues going. Well, and yet if this marked binding never comes up, well, temporary is relative. That about the initialization, and now I could also tell something about the idea of switching between draft and.
So maybe Uwe, one more thing, because it's directly in the lines above. Yeah. So what this also means is that this new context, or this context that you get back there, it's set to a status that we say call KeepAlive. Yeah, and this refers to this. Yeah, context might get destroyed. So KeepAlive contexts are only destroyed when your list binding is destroyed. And the point is, when a context does not need to be kept alive anymore, you should actually take away this KeepAlive flag from the context, because in certain scenarios, like when you refresh the list binding, there will be specific requests for each of these kept alive contexts, yeah, and you don't want to have them in addition, yeah, unnecessarily. So for performance reasons, you need to also housekeep there, yeah.
So this context is not only created, it's also marked as KeepAlive. And of course, if we already had one, because we are switching to another product in this case, we have to get rid of it and remove the marker. Yeah. Yeah, about this toggling between draft and active entity in the list. So if you are pressing the edit button, the list should, of course, now not longer show the active instance, but the draft instance that is also shown in the object page to keep them in sync. We have unedit here. So this is toggle draft function. For this, we extended the execute function from the context binding with an additional parameter here, and we can just go shortly at its description. What does it do? Basically, no, I must click exactly. So basically, this parameter tells us that we are taking the result of this operation and replace it in the list, which is the parent of this operation. So here we have ensured that our binding context of the view is the parent of this operation binding. And so the list basically is made visible to this operation. And since this operation returns also an entity of basically a product entity, it is possible to replace it in the list. And by this, immediately after the function succeeded, it is shown in the list instead of the active entity. Same works for the draft. And some final thing for the cancel, it's another issue. Now we don't execute an operation, but still want to replace the draft entity, which is shown in the list currently, with the active entity this draft was based on. And for this, there are again two cases. If we have this active context from previously, remember, then we can simply replace it. There's a special function at the context, which tells this context is to be replaced by this one. They must of course be created by the same or owned by the same binding. And if we don't have this active context yet, then we can call an action and treat it like an operation. So basically we use the sibling entity navigation property and pretend that it's an action. And then we can also again use this replacing parameter within the list. Basically, that's it for this topic, I think.
Yeah.
Are there questions?
I think the important point really is, if you have such a list detail scenario and you're wondering how can we ensure that it's efficient, we are not doing too many requests, and if you then this is the application where you can actually look how it's done. The important part is around this getKeepAliveContext. So it's really not much that needs to be done by the application, and you will increase the efficiency by a lot. So Uwe, if you give me the sharing, then I could quickly show the second topic. If you are with SAP for some time, then you will know that in SAP GUI, but also in WebDyn Pro, we have UIs where at the end of tables, you just have empty rows where you can enter new data. And our S4 colleagues got feedback that the same was actually missing for customers in our Fiori UIs. And now this possibility to add such empty rows at the end of tables, or in case of the responsive table, you may also want to add it at the beginning. That's now there. It goes with the under the name of inline creation rows. So how does it work? So you have a row, or in this case 3 rows that are inactive, and inactive means there's no post request yet. So whatever you do, submit batch or whatever, yeah, because there's no post request, nothing will happen. When the user goes in and changes any of the properties, then this row is getting activated. Activated means we are creating the post request, it's added to the request queue, and because here in this application we are again using draft, it's also directly persisted in the backend, and then we get a new row created as well. Yeah, so the way how to do this is described in our documentation. There's unfortunately no sample application so far, but there's not that much that needs to be done here as well. So how to get there, you go to the documentation in the demo kit. Again, you search for V4. There is a chapter creating an entity, and in there is then a section inline creation rows. And this actually tells you there are two things you need here. There is the OData list binding create method, which got a new parameter be inactive. If you set that to true, you get an inactive row. And when the row gets activated, then the list binding fires the create activate event. And in the event handler for that, you can simply go and create another inactive row. There's one more ingredient, and it is where to create the first inactive rows. And for that, I will hand over to Uwe once more.
How does it look like in the application Mathias just showed? Now, basically, we're here in the on init of our controller. And what do? Well, we are reacting to the data received event from the binding. And yeah, well, look if there are already such creation rows. Basically, this one tells us two things. Oh, great. It tells us two things. So it has Boolean or undefined. If it's undefined, there have never been created any rows yet for this binding. And otherwise, it tells us whether the creation was at the end or at the start, which will come to this just in a moment. So basically, here is the question. Here stands: if there have not been rows created yet, do it. And what does this create inactive rows do? Just jump to it. Well, we have a number and iterate on it and create an empty row. And the important thing is this here. So basically, the list binding has a function create, which is not quite new, but usually this context which is created is also leads automatically to a post request, which is put in the queue. And basically what we do now, we have a flag which prevents this. And such an inactive context now reacts on the first property which is changed. And if this happens, it becomes active, which means that basically this post request is put in the batch queue and that it also fires an event. And this event then can be used. Let's get back to our init function. This create activate then can be used to add another inactive row, so that we always have three of them. And why do we do this in the data received event? This basically has two reasons. The first reason is it would be quite confusing is this on a slow line if the empty rows come up and later they are put behind the other data. So this by using the data received event, they will be added at that moment when there are data actually. That's the main reason currently. Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I mean, it was impressive to see all this coding, and I hope this helped also our participants and everyone in UI5 to understand those concepts a bit better. So thanks a lot, and it was really right to time. Now we have even 1 minute after 4 o'clock, so time is flying today. As I cannot see any questions, I guess people need to get to know what they just saw. So maybe the next time.
I know, try it out.
Exactly, try it out, give feedback, so we see where you might need further information or something like that. So
yeah, the empty rows I immediately test.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for your feedback. Yeah,
do so exactly. So if any of you have nothing to share anymore or to say something, no, then I think we can close for today. And thanks everyone who joined today. Thanks a lot to my panelists. Thanks for the preparation. And yeah, hope
Thanks
see
for the
you.
invitation.
Yeah, you're welcome. So hope
Okay.
see you soon and see you at UI5con.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Bye.